Welcome back to another Learn PowerShell video. In this video, we're going to be talking about data structures, specifically arrays, as we kind of talk about all of the data structures that exist and kind of how they behave in more depth. So an array is a data structure that is designed to store a collection of items. So the items can be the same type, such as two integers like 1 and 2, or different types where you have a string and an integer like a word, say this, or test, and then a number like 1. So we can create an array by storing items between open and close parentheses, similar to this. That creates us an array. We can also create an array by separating items inside of a variable, so just separating them by a comma. And we can verify that it's an array by get type. Here we go, system array. We can also just typecast, so array, whatever we're doing. You can store the variable array and by default, this would have already made an array. However, we can tell it that we want this array to only have strings. So then we can also just use the at symbol in front of parentheses as well. So if I just copy this and say array again, so there you go. So that's a few different ways to make an array. I can step into this. It actually just made this a string, so let me redo that. There we go. So you can step into the array as I've shown you in several other videos just by indexing the item that you want to step into. So as mentioned, arrays can store any data type. So if we wanted to redo this, we could say that this and we can check to see array 0 and array 1, and we can do get type on each of them. This is a string and this is an integer. So they do not have to be of the same type. It will keep them as you explicitly state. And it's important to note that other types of collections like custom objects and hash tables, they do not have the same freedom. So just arrays are unique in this aspect. And then all arrays are not created equal. So you have these single dimensional arrays, which don't have layers and layers to them. You can just access anything in them by stepping into like we just did. There are multi-dimensional arrays, but being that we're covering beginner level concepts, we're going to avoid that altogether for now. So inside of arrays, you can have methods. So let's look at some of the methods, and I'm going to show you another type of array that you can make as well. This is a collection. So right now in this integers array, we have 0 through 100. And some of those methods that exist, actually, let's remove this variable and just leave it an array. Oops. Perfect. So here we have some different I should just showed you a different way where we actually typecasted it to an array list. Um, we can do some things like add to it. So if I just do integers plus equal 101, and then integers again, now we've added 101, this number to it. So as far as the methods go, we have this first one called clear. And to access the methods, you need to step into the array. So this first one, we're actually going to remove this and just say array perfect. So we can do array clear and close the, and now what we've done is cleared out the array. However, clear is very unique in that it does not reset the size of the array. So here we have 4 items. This is an array. And if we do .count, we can see that there are still 4 items in that array. They just happen to all be empty containers. So that's something to note for clear. So array clear. The next one is for each. So we can do this one on the integers actually, because it'll make more sense. And you need to do it inside of a script block. So what we're going to do is $_ plus equal 1, close the script block in parentheses. And now, whoops. Let's do +1. There we go. So now we've added all this, and our starting number is 1 now, not 0. So this just iterates through every item in the array and does something, whatever you have to say in your script block. There's also where. So where is similar to for each, but it is going to look for a certain evaluation. So let's do where on integers as well. And we're going to say that where the number is greater than, let's say 80 to start. And we also need to close this with parentheses. So if I scroll up a little bit, it starts with 81 because that's the first number greater than 80 and gives us the rest. There's also some different things that where has that other methods don't, and these are evaluations. So let's, these are run modes. So what we're going to do is look at some of them really quick. So let's say where, and actually let me just copy this and paste it. So inside the parentheses, we can do a comma, and we can say that we only want the first item that's actually greater than 80. This is a number to return. So this gives us 81. Now, some of those run modes look like this. We can say first, and this will give us the first number after 80. We can also say last, and this will give us the very last number that comes after 80. We can also change this to a higher number, like 2, and return the last 2 in the list that appear after 80. We can also say we're going to skip until 80. So what this is saying is it says skip all the numbers up until 80 and then give me back the first one. So this will look similar to first. It is not, though. It doesn't even try to evaluate until this is true. So just like that, there's also another one, just like first and last are opposites. We have another opposite that is called until. Oops. So what this does is this actually reverses what's here. So while this says give me everything greater than 80, this says give me everything up until this is true. So 0 through 80, this applies to. So we can actually say return the first 81. and see it stops at 80 and gives us everything there. So those are the run modes and the number to return. So moving on, I'm going to copy and paste an array of names. So going forward beyond the run modes and the methods, we have pipeline behaviors for arrays. So as you can see from this name array, we have most of it in order. However, when we get to the C's, Candy and Carissa should be here and are not. Daniel is out of place, so we would need to move those. So one thing we can do is we can say names, and we can just do sort object. And this will sort according to the data type. So for strings, it'll put them alphabetically. For numbers, it will count up in ascending order numerically. You can say in descending order, and it will do it backwards. You can also, just like in the methods, you can say select object, and you can say first one if you wanted, or last one. And because they're sorted, this becomes the last. And then you can also just use methods on this type of an array. I know I just showed you where on the integers, but let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like for strings. So we're going to say names where, and we will say where the name is like C. And from here, we're just going to see all the names that are like C. They're not in order. We can add the pipeline behavior to that and say sort object, and it'll put them in order for us. We can also say that we only want the first one. After they're not in order, so this is the first C in the list. We can order that though, but we have to order it first, so you would have to order it and then select the first one. So you can do this multiple different ways. You can just tell, for each item in, say, integers, what we're going to do is item plus equal 1. And then, item, just like before, just like in this for each, the result is the same. To add to that, you can actually iterate through it for each with the pipeline and have it save. As you've seen before, integers and then pipeline, and you can say for each here. This is for each object. And for each object, for each, and for each here all work very similarly, just are viewed a little differently. While this, you explicitly state what your variable you're creating is called. For each object after the pipeline and for each method, you don't actually state what the variable name is called, so you use the $_ to call each item in the list. So this is the basics of array, and hopefully you have learned something, and soon I'll be working on the other data types such as custom objects, method or hash tables, and covering the same types of information for each of those. Thank you.